Major funding for Arkansas Treasures was provided by the Arkansas Natural and Cultural Resources Council and the Susan Howarth Fund at the Community Foundation of Tampa Bay. Additional funding provided by Annette and Phil Harrington, the Arkansas PBS Local Production Fund, and by viewers like you.
Do you have any idea what the book is worth?
Right. My guess is probably Winchester.
I think you'll be surprised that it's a little bit higher.
Said I was not going to say wow, but I did anyway. I should have said what?
The natural state is chock full of interesting history, from the Toltec Mounds in Scott to the hanging Judge Gallows in Fort Smith. There is something interesting around every corner.
This is a peanut and popcorn vending cart that was my grandfather's. Gas tank in here for heating. This will still turn. I mean, this would spin like the little balance thing. I think they would put it in here and it'd go in the innermost, and as it would heat, it would expand and move out.
Here at Arkansas Treasures, our dedicated team of producers have connected folks from across the state with knowledgeable evaluators who can give them an idea of what their item might be worth.
I said she thought I might be able to get $45 for this, $15 for this.
Worth anywhere from $300 to $500, maybe $400 to $600.
Worth about $150.
The value is less than $100, which that's fine with us.
And we've had some surprises along the way.
My father wrote to my mother during World War II, letters to Ruth. She said it would be worth to a collector thousands of dollars, but to my family, there's not a price that you could put on it.
Let's see if we can find an even bigger surprise.
I want to thank you for coming out to Arkansas Treasures, and truly you have bought one of the great treasures of American history. Tell me what you brought me today.
Thank you. It is a Winchester over and under rifle that belonged to my great-grandfather.
Yep. The lever action rifle that won the West. I mean, this is iconic Western guns. What's interesting is this is a model 1876. It's also in a caliber that is rarely produced. It's a 45-60,
okay,
which is a little bit different caliber. It's in great condition. It's got a long octagonal barrel, which was used for certain types of accuracy. I don't see anything that is not complete on this gun. Have you ever had anybody look at it for you?
No, I haven't.
So do you sit on the back porch and shoot squirrels with this?
Well, I used to have it above my fireplace.
Okay.
But someone told me that was
That's probably
ill-advised.
Not the best place to keep it. Have you personally ever shot it?
No, my dad shot it.
Okay. Did his shoulder recover? This is
finally.
A very, very powerful gun. It's why they don't really make that caliber anymore.
It sent him head over heels.
I bet it did. You know, in today's market, collectible firearms are very hot. It's probably one of the things that keeps up with the Dow Jones Industrial better than anything else. And if this were to come up in a gun auction, this would probably be looking to fetch somewhere between $5,000 and $7,000.
Really?
It really would. It's a great piece of Americana, and I want to thank you for bringing it in.
How much do you think my great-grandfather would have paid for it?
$100.
$100?
Yep.
Wow. Thank you.
It's a remarkable piece. Thank you so much.
Welcome. What have you brought for us today? Looks like a big chess set.
It is a big chess set. I've had this for probably about 25 years.
25 years. Mm-hmm. Where'd you get it?
I got it at a flea market.
Here in town? Or?
In Searcy.
In
Searcy, Arkansas.
Searcy, Arkansas.
Searcy. Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
And they didn't know much about it.
They didn't? Was it a big flea market?
It was. At the time, it was. It's not there anymore.
So about 25 years ago, you found this awesome papier-mâché, Mexican-themed chess set.
That's right. I was just fascinated by it. It's all handmade. And,
yes, it's all handmade, hand-painted,
and
out of Mexico.
Mm-hmm. Even though I don't play chess, it just drew me to it.
This didn't make you a world champion.
It did not.
Have you ever played it? Has anybody ever
have
played?
Personally, yes.
Well, cool.
Some friends.
Yeah, all right. Tell me what you paid for it.
$25.
You paid $25 for this gun.
I did.
All right. This is probably back in the 50s, and they still, I think, still produce these on a limited basis. They are handmade, they're out of Mexico. Do you have any idea what the value is?
I have no idea. I hope it's worth more than 25.
I think you'll be very happy with this figure. How about $1,200 to $1,500?
Ooh, I would love that. That's great.
Thanks for bringing it in. It's really nice.
$1,200 to $1,500.
$1,200 to $1,500.
Oh, can't believe that. I was hoping a couple hundred maybe.
The last one at auction sold for about $1,300.
About 13? Ah. Well, thank you. That is really a good surprise. Thank
Glad you could bring it in and share it with us.
Oh, thank you.
It really is all connected to my dad, and that's what really is the sweet spot for me.
Welcome. What have you brought to us to look at today?
Well, I brought a couple of mics that were my daddy's.
And your daddy did?
He worked sound at Robinson Auditorium.
And that's located?
In Little Rock.
Cool.
And in the 80s, they had a renovation. During that time, these microphones, with a bunch of others, were found in a dirty old box. They were going to throw them away, and so they asked Daddy if he'd want them. So he took them home, and this one still works. The other one's in a little bit rougher shape.
Okay.
Then, after a few years, I found out that Elvis played at Robinson Auditorium.
Cool.
A few years later, I found a picture of Elvis singing into a microphone that looks a lot like this for a 1956 concert. I called up Daddy.
At the auditorium?
At the auditorium.
All right.
I called up Daddy and said, hey, those microphones that you had, did they have a sticker on them? It's like, yeah, they had a sticker. It was their inventory sticker. Okay, Daddy, don't take the sticker off. Whatever you do, don't take the sticker off.
And I understand there's a picture out there somewhere that shows these microphones with a similar sticker in the picture.
Yes.
So that's a pretty interesting story. But let's talk about the microphones.
Okay.
Do you have any idea what they are?
I believe they're RCA's, of course, but it's 77s?
D77 is the model number. And they're got a nice little price tag these days. You have any idea what they're worth?
I know that you can restore microphones.
Mm-hmm.
So sometime for parts, I think like 2,000,
yeah,
3,000.
If this one's working in decent condition,
yes,
you're looking at 2,500 to 3,000. Your other one needs a little work. You're looking at 700 to 1,000.
Okay.
Thanks for bringing them in.
Thank you.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Tell me a little bit about what you brought today.
What I brought today was a painting that my grandmother, my granny, acquired in New York City, probably back in the 50s or early 60s.
Okay.
I remember this painting from my entire childhood.
No kidding. Okay.
So she had this next to the dining room table, and I would stare at it because of the colors.
Sure. All right, so this is by Samuel Halpert.
Mm-hmm.
And he was more or less a impressionist / modernist that painted. He was Russian-born, came to the United States in the 1890s, I believe. He traveled to France early on and was influenced by a group of artists called the Fauvists. Now, the Fauvists were artists like Cézanne and Matisse, Lemanque, all of these artists that were using strong, bold colors, which was a departure from the Impressionists. The Impressionists were painting more or less time of day, the light, but true to form.
Okay.
So if you look at the masts, they're like a bright red.
Right.
And the boats are purplish, not the colors that you would expect.
Right.
So the Fauvists used color, and you brought up when you're little, the color is what fascinated you. Well, this is a really uncommon and rare example of Halpert's Fauvist works.
Okay.
Now, Fauvism was the movement that I told you about, that the artists were working right around 1905. They exhibited, and an art critic called them the Fauves, which is the term in French for wild beasts. Now, they called them wild beasts because they were using
That's so cool.
bold and powerful colors. Now, in the time that I've been in the business, and American paintings are what I'm primarily known for, I have seen very few of his Fauvist works. So this is a direct result of his exposure in 1905.
Okay.
They're uncommon. He started to get much more representational in color as time went on.
Oh, okay.
I've really only seen a couple.
My goodness.
So when we go to look for valuation, this is extremely uncommon for him. And it's exactly the kind of point where he started to become his own painter. and painting in a style that he was very respected by the French. For an American, that wasn't always the case.
That's tough.
But he adopted that Fauves style. So in terms of value, you see his works go through the marketplace that are the later works from the teens and the 20s. And they can exceed, they can get into $4,000 and $5,000 and $6,000 range. Some of New York City have brought much more because they're of New York City.
Right.
Now we think this is probably the Grand Canal in Venice.
Right.
That's what I'm assuming it is.
Okay.
But it's a fantastic work. It's a fantastic faux piece. It's uncommon to see this. So, although we're seeing prices in the 5 and 6 range for works this size, again, being of that kind of more representational color, being a Fauvist work, I think 8 to 12,000 is not an unrealistic figure. And I think if it went to a public auction, it could exceed that because of its rarity and because it's a Fauvist painting.
Oh my goodness.
But it's in good condition. It's always been in this frame.
Yes.
It's probably much later frames, probably 1940s or 50s.
Right.
Is my guess. It's probably when she bought it.
Right.
But, it's a beautiful painting.
It is, isn't it?
For a Halpert, it's the best of the best. It's really, in my opinion, one of the better ones out there. So it could exceed that potentially, but conservatively, it's 12.
Wow.
But thank you for bringing it.
Thank you.
It's a wonderful piece.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Arkansas Treasures evaluators have found some truly incredible things of impressive value, but sometimes what's most impressive is how folks came by their treasure. One story we heard even involved rock and roll royalty.
So I grew up in North Little Rock, pretty idealistic childhood. My father's an eye surgeon. My parents traveled to Las Vegas quite a bit on the junkets back in the 60s and 70s. They would fly you out there pretty much for free, and you just had to show some action on the tables. And so they went a lot. And so he went to the International Hotel to see Elvis's act in the fall of '72. It was his comeback. And Dad ended up at one of the front tables in a show at the International one night. And he would come out, and in this particular outfit he was wearing, so he would come out in that and do his big, the winged look that he was famous for. In this case, he took the cape off with Velcro and little hooks. And he took it off and he threw it in the audience. It landed between two people. When he did that, Dad stood up to see the two guys fight over it. And when he stood up, he wasn't looking at the stage anymore, but Elvis had thrown the jacket and it hit him right in the face, and he sat down with it. And when he did, of course, the ladies there just boom, right on top of him. And one of them got hold of the sleeve and ripped off 3 of the buttons. So it had 3 buttons missing on one sleeve. So they have an Elvis jacket, and they put it in a plastic bag and brought it home. And well, we just played with it. It was a kind of conversation piece. I took it to show and tell at 6th grade. And Andy Miller had his dad's shark knife from scuba diving, and I beat that one. I didn't know how I was going to beat the shark knife, but Elvis's jacket did. But fortunately, I got a stained chocolate ice cream stain on the thing, and that made it to the auction later. So that's my claim to fame, is I got chocolate on Elvis's jacket. So I'm a little embarrassed about that. So don't tell anybody. 43 years later, we put it up for auction at the Julian Auction House in LA, and it pulled a pretty good sum. It sold for $56,000, I think. I was a little chapped because I thought the gamble came down a little fast. But, it was better than a poke in the eye.
And I'm really glad you brought this in. Thank you so much for coming to Arkansas Treasures today.
I was glad to come. I was really glad to come.
Every time I think I've seen my favorite thing, someone brings another one along, and I'm surprised.
Oh, yeah.
I was very surprised by what you brought in. Can you tell us about it, please?
Yes, this is the 1950 Dyess, Arkansas yearbook. And it's got Johnny Cash in it.
Well, I see that right here, Johnny Cash, a senior. Yeah. It says, Johnny Cash, Vice President, be a live wire, then you won't get stepped on.
Right, that's right.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
So how did you come to have this?
Well, like I said, I went to school with him.
Okay.
So I've got one of the books.
Well, did you know him?
No, I was in the 2nd grade.
Oh, okay. So you might not have, he was a big senior. You might not have known him.
Yeah, might not have known him, right.
And I see you have a couple of signatures on here. You've got Roseanne Cash and Joanne Cash. I can't make out that Cash.
Yeah, I've never made that one out either.
All right, so tell me how you came about these signatures.
Arkansas State runs the Johnny Cash Historical Society. And
so there was a big festival.
It was a big festival, and Roseanne was there and singing, and Chris Christopherson.
Oh, how wonderful.
And some of the other Cashes, Roy Cash, and the Cash girl that was Miss America in 1984, I believe it was.
Oh my goodness. Well, so you had the foresight to bring your 1950 yearbook to the 2017 festival and get it signed.
Yes, yes I did. I managed to do that.
Now, as far as value, do you have any idea what this is valued?
No, some organization up north sent me a letter one time in 1994 and offered me $150 for it.
Well, how dare they?
Yeah.
That's just ridiculous.
That is.
Well, I know it's invaluable to you and your family.
Oh yeah.
And I'm sure you'll make sure it stays in Arkansas. It's very hard to value something like this because it just doesn't come up.
Oh no, and then too, see, I was born in Dyess.
Right.
Had my tonsils taken out there too. Started school there.
So they had a part of you in Dyess before you left. Yeah. In addition to going to school with Johnny Cash. Without the signatures, I would probably have said this would be easy $500. With the signatures, I'm going to bump it up to $750. But with the caveat that if you get 2 Johnny Cash collectors in the same room, the sky's the limit.
Yeah.
Because as I said, when something doesn't come up for sale, it's hard to value it.
Oh,
but
yeah.
There are just wonderful collections out there of Johnny Cash that would love to have this piece, I'm sure. So I think at auction, the sky's the limit.
Well, that's nice.
Thank you so much for bringing this in.
Yeah, but I'm not going to sell it.
Well, I didn't think you would. As much pride as you had coming in and showing us. Thank you for taking time out of your day to spend time with us at Arkansas Treasures.
Well, I'm glad to do it.
Thank you.
Yes, appreciate it.
Hello and welcome to the show. What have you brought in for us to take a look at today?
I brought in some tintype photographs that were passed down from my mother, from her parents.
Okay, and so these would be family members?
These possibly family members.
Okay.
They were taken sometime after the Civil War, I'm pretty certain of that, either here in Arkansas or perhaps in Georgia.
Okay. And do you ever remember seeing these images as a boy?
I don't remember seeing them. My mother gave me these she received them from my grandmother shortly before my grandmother passed. So this was like 35 years ago or so.
Okay.
So it's my first time seeing them.
Okay, well, great. So yes, we have some tintype photos of African Americans. Your family, we're going to say, possibly.
Yeah, my family.
And we have the gentlemen are all wearing suits in this image.
Yes.
This image, and then we actually have one that's holding an instrument.
Yes.
And then we have 2 ladies, and one actually has a floral design here on her dress.
Yes.
And so what I'd like to speak about a little bit at first is condition. And so we do see that because these images are on tin, we have a slight chip here and here and here, and this one as well. And so what's going to be very important as you continue to be the keeper of these objects is that they are kept flat to prevent any more damage and chipping on them. You want it to be acid-free material so that it doesn't take away from the images.
Okay.
And so that's going to be most important. The other thing that I love about this is, unfortunately, with African American imagery, sometimes they are quite separated from the families. And so we have all of these pictures and we don't know who they were, their names, who their family members were. And so the fact that these were handed to you by someone in your family and you're able to know that at least possibly that these are family members.
Possibly, yes.
And so when we talk about African American tintypes in the market, we're talking about a market range of $600 to $900 for all 6 images. And so I thank you for bringing them in, and hope that with these tips on how to preserve them, that you'll be able to share them with future generations.
Yes, thank you.
This is my first name?
Yes, sir.
Dub. And I'm from Hot Springs, Arkansas.
So when you brought this in, what did you think you had here?
I had a sure enough sake jug.
Okay, well, everybody agreed with you, and the world's smaller than it used to be. I thought the same until I pulled out my phone and used Google Translate.
Yes.
And what did it say right there on the jug?
Water jug.
Drinking water.
Yes.
Yeah. And, you know, usually we can't know that these have a specific date, and we don't know exactly how old they are. They turn up in the antiques trade, and a lot of people like them, and they're all over the internet, called sake vessels. What did we find here to date it?
We found it right on the side of the
How long have you owned this thing?
Oh, probably 15, 20 years.
Well, I don't know if this company won some awards or what happened, but there's a bunch of medallions there, and one of them has a little English writing and a date 1888.
Yes, and I've been speaking English for, 76 years.
Right. Sometimes we need to look at our stuff if we want to understand it, right?
That's right. That's exactly.
You know, it might be a little after 1888. Sometimes these things are put on things because, you know, they won an award, they did an exhibit, they have a trademark, they have a copyright. For the show purposes, I didn't have time to do enough research to figure that out. But I was pleased to note that it had a date of 1888 and to figure out it's a drinking water vessel. How do you feel about that?
I think that's wonderful. That's the only thing I got right, was that it was in the Meiji era. Which Meiji goes from 1868 to 1903. That's right in the middle of it.
This would have been kind of highfalutin, I think. I see a lot of stoneware vessels from the southeastern U.S., all over the U.S., earthenware and stoneware, and a lot of the things in Japan are also made out of different materials.
That's correct.
Especially in earthenware, it helps keep water cool because it can leach through, and the process of evaporation helps keep it chilled.
That's right.
What's
and
this made out of?
You did a great job. I think it's porcelain.
Yeah, porcelain doesn't leak anything, so it wouldn't do anything to help with evaporation. And it's a huge piece of porcelain. A lot of these that I've seen are significantly smaller. This is probably made for some type of commercial use, maybe for workers to use. We might find out more if I get, you know, to spend some time doing some research for it. What did you think this thing was worth?
When I got home from Japan in '03, I looked on the internet thinking it was a sake jug, and it was worth, according to the internet, $1,000. Now here again, I was thinking it was a sake jug.
Right.
And it said $1,000. But here, before I came on the show, I couldn't find anything.
Right. Well, I think there are a lot of people who collect sake, and people collect liquor jugs in general, and probably more collect things related to alcohol than with water. But this is big, it's showy, it's got a date, and there's probably more information written right there on it that we haven't translated yet.
That's true.
And I don't think that it would be reasonable to think this is worth a lot less than that. And
really?
Depending on what's written on it, it might be worth more. So I think you've done your research well and learned a little bit about it by bringing it here.
Well, thank you for finding out that I can't read English.
And thanks for supporting PBS. We appreciate
thank you very much for your help.
You know, a first on Arkansas Treasures, because many people try to blow their own horn, but we've actually got a horn to blow this time. Tell me, you know, you came up to the table with a whole slew of luggage and kept pulling out more and more pieces. What have you brought in today?
We have got some horns that
You have got some horns.
We do. We've got horns that once belonged to Doc Severinsen.
Which explains why we were playing the old Tonight Show opening.
That is correct. Doc was, he joined the Tonight Show in 1962 in October.
Tell me a little bit about what, because we've actually got a trumpet and we've also got another instrument.
This is Doc's very first trumpet.
Okay.
It's a Getzen Eterna Doc Severinsen model.
And what do we have here?
This is an Eterna flugelhorn that Doc had Getzen make for him with a 5-inch bell. Most of them have a 6-inch bell. This has got a smaller bell. It gives.
But it mimics the same size as the trumpet.
Yes,
And here we have a line of mouthpieces that he also contributed to many of their designs.
Yes, it was the Jet Tone Company, Bill Ratzberger, along with Amato, and they designed these, and Doc was just one of the many artists who had mouthpieces. Maynard Ferguson had his Jet Tone, Bill Chase had his Jet Tone. These are silver and gold Jet Tone mouthpieces of Doc Severinsen, and it's taken me 25 years to collect those.
Well, and you have other pieces that relate back to this time period of both musical instruments and Doc Severinsen. But, you know, when we look at this is almost a whole collection. And many times we've seen musical instruments of well-known musicians come on the market, and they do pretty well. Yeah, I think if these two pieces, plus some of the other ones that you've got with the innovations that you show coming through there, you know, they came up as a group of items. I think the total out on that could be in upwards of $250,000.
Wow.
You know, and particularly the demonstrated ties back to Doc Severinsen.
Sure.
You know, Doc's not been playing for a while, but he's still out there, and I think PBS has a couple of pieces on him right now on the air.
Never give up.
Never give up. But I want to thank you because there's still a few of us who remember Doc Severinsen and Johnny Carson and Ed McMahon. I figure I'm Johnny Carson, so that makes you Ed. Because we got Doc here.
That's right.
I want to thank you all for coming out and playing and being a part of Arkansas Treasures.
Thank you for having us here.
Well, that's it for this edition of Arkansas Treasures. Thank you so much for joining us on this vintage adventure. Until next time, keep your eyes peeled for that next great discovery. You never know where you might find your very own Arkansas Treasures.
This is Papa Naylor's corn whiskey jug, and he really did drink out of it. His corn cobs are down in there that he stopped it up with.
We have no information or history about it, and nobody's been able to tell us anything. So we brought it today to hear from the experts, and I think we've stumped the experts.
It's a part of Arkansas history. Whether you liked him or not, he was a force to be reckoned with, so to speak.
She had been told it was worth a lot more, but I found out today it's worth the silver it's made out of. So
The grandkids thought they were spooky looking, so nobody wanted them, so I carried them from one place to the other.
I'm so glad, though, I'm still the main antique she brought.
Yeah, he is my favorite antique.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Major funding for Arkansas Treasures was provided by the Arkansas Natural and Cultural Resources Council and the Susan Howarth Fund at the Community Foundation of Tampa Bay. Additional funding provided by Annette and Phil Harrington, the Arkansas PBS Local Production Fund, and by viewers like you.